first really big thing was just to be really reminded in a lovely way how strong Liz's writing was, particularly the powerful lyrical poetry of pain, unsentimental, unself-pitying ability of Liz Lochhead, the poet, to capture human suffering in words in a way that was neither mawkish, nor self-pitying, nor melodramatic, just true. We sought the rhythms in Liz Lochhead, the poet, in her language. We found them and we celebrated them. And that was a way of all the chorus vocally holding hands and staying together. And that produced some lovely stuff. And at the other end, we would do something that solved the problem that the rhythmic speaking sometimes caused, which was it sounded a bit impersonal. So at the other end, we would say, right, okay, we'll take it in turns for there to be a lead speaker. And so literally, I would choose someone, sometimes democratically, sometimes because I liked the way they were doing it, to do a line and then get everyone to just copy that line. You know, a lot of acting is mimicry. And so it's quite fun, actually, just to be mimics. And so you got all these wildly different women from mid-70s down to tiny early 20s, hearing impaired, sight impaired, all being one person. And that produced some very interesting things. Am I really going to be just mimicking all the way through this? I'm not sure as an actor that's really fulfilling for me. So it was a dance between you are an individual within this chorus, and I would like you to find out as we go who you are, what your distinct thing is, your age, your attitude. Some of you are mothers, some of you are not, some of you are on your own, some of you are with partners, some of you are recently split up, whatever. Technically, we're going to achieve, at the same time, we're behaving like the Berlin Symphonic Orchestra. For the chorus, as a group, everybody knowing that we had to support B, hearing impaired, in a vocal chorus, hello, and visually impaired actress. It kind of was a unifying thing, taking it in turns to be with Brooke, the sight-impaired actress, as we went around the stage, because I wanted a very mobile chorus, not static, going upstairs onto a very high stage with dangerous edges and all of, I mean, it was stupid. But in a funny way, it stopped the chorus fragmenting in some ways. It was really useful, as well as being very powerful in their own right. Things you became aware of the tradition in Greek tragedy of unsighted people being gifted with other sight and insight, whether it's Tiresias or Oedipus after he's been blinded or whatever. There's a strong line of blind people in Greek tragedy who have great vision. And of course, the kind of embodied vigor of sign language was a great gift also to the chorus. It gave another aspect to them with B's tremendously expressive signing. So it was a mixture of a moral exercise, a technical exercise, and the same trial and error exercise that I was doing with the principal actors. I don't know what I'm doing when I'm casting because I haven't rehearsed it. I don't know. So in a way, you've got certain hunches that you're going to go with, but it may be that that hunch requires a certain kind of person that you can't find. But meantime, you find this genius other person that contradicts that hunch. Then you go, do you trust your hunch, or do you go with something that actually is gorgeous and might lead you in an interesting direction somewhere else? So that's part of the process, is being open even at the audition stage, of changing direction slightly. The process, for instance, with Robbie Jack, who played the very, very difficult part of Jason. It's a difficult part in Euripides, and I think even harder in Liz's version, because Liz has quite properly celebrated the sort of feminist satirical aspect of it. And there was a danger for me of Jason being just a patsy, just a sort of cartoon misogynist man. And I met Robbie Jack here in interview and mucked around with some speeches with him, and I thought, yes, thank you very much, you're great. I felt I needed Robbie to, someone as sharp and bright as Robbie, to weave into the character of Jason more sort of credibility and authority and humanity. I thought he had the ability and the nuance and the virtuosity to pull that off. And that's true. And interestingly, in rehearsals, Robbie and I pursued that line of, right, we're going to try and make Jason as human as possible so that we believe Medea might have fallen in love with him, and so that we don't just, as men in the audience, go, that's not me. I wanted us to feel uncomfortable in the audience, which meant that Jason had to be someone that we might not, if not identify with, but at least not easily dismiss. And we pushed that and pushed that and pushed that, and we got as far as we could with that, and we were still stuck. And in the end, I also needed Robbie's comic virtuosity, his ability to just have fun with a character and play with his comic awfulness. So that was unexpected, but it's a real lesson to a director about auditioning. It wasn't just Robbie's intelligence and ability to be serious that I wanted. I knew I also wanted, it's almost like a redundancy, I wanted capacity in him for I knew not what. Skills. So that in rehearsal, we could go this way, that way, that way. You want someone who you can go in different directions with. And I felt that about Robbie, and it proved to be utterly true. And he completely pulled it off. Adura, I cast Adura because she was the first artist who brought together for me the suffering, the humanity, the humor, the wit, and the authority, the kind of class, actually, and not in British sense of class, but sort of authority. What she also brought was the fact that she's a Nigerian British artist based in Glasgow, and therefore vividly dramatized the aspect of Medea being an outsider. She brought utter empathy to Medea, a thing that a lot of actors would say no to playing Medea for would be, but she kills her children. Adura had the courage to take the role on and to go, I think I can take the audience with this woman about where she's pushed to. And there comes a point in Medea's journey where, yes, of course she's pushed, and the world has damaged her. And it's still inexcusable what she does. And it's still extraordinary and appalling. What is she like at that moment? What has the damage done to her turned her into? It's turned her into someone quite sick and quite dangerous. And allowing Adura and encouraging Adura to show that pain is not good for you, pain corrupts you, and that it does become corrupted, Medea, to be incapable and deluded to the extent that thinking killing her children would be a solution. And I think that was something that Adura had to confront, and she did with great courage. Where should we play it? And how do you stage this thing? The big question is, because there's this chorus, which is a really big part of it. What is the chorus? Is it partly us, the audience? Well, if it is, it's only, if you like, half of us, because it's a chorus of women. And Greek choruses weren't always choruses of women at all. Normally they were mixed. Yeah, they were the citizens giving the sort of popular response. And the chorus was genuinely a character in Greek tragedy, because it wasn't this perfect voice of truth of the people. No, it was a fickle mob sometimes. And I wanted to be able to physically embody the relationship between the chorus and the protagonists, the main characters. And it really felt to me that the chorus should come from out of us, have an attitude to half of us, i.e. the men, but it's a female voice. And I kind of needed in my head a fluidity, a dynamic fluidity between audience and stage. I wasn't excited by the idea of a bank of people stage left, or a bank of people stage right going, Medea. I couldn't get excited about that. They are different kinds of women come together to talk about the unfairness to women in the world. So I felt it was quite important they had an objective presence. And also I thought it was very important for our understanding of Medea's journey that we were invited to look at misogyny and inequality. So I wanted them to have their own objective life. They're not just some subjective inside her head thing. And that was best expressed for me by them being from amongst us and then coming and being part of the action in extremis, when they felt they had to come on stage. Another major feature of the play for me was that it was a series, in some ways, a series of two-handed battles. And I felt a desire to create the main street at the OK Corral, the Western shootout, where you literally, if you're going to go through this street, you've got to get past me. And so whether it's husband and wife fighting it out, or whether it's the king and Medea fighting it out, or whether it's Medea and her rival Glauce fighting it out, it felt like I could create maximum tension on a relatively narrow, long stage going through the audience, with the audience able to watch and be the equivalent of the people cowering in the saloon bar behind the window and not wanting to get a stray shot. Right at the beginning, Medea goes from hero to zero, from being someone celebrated and maybe slightly feared, to being someone banished and treated like filth, really. An extraordinary plummeting that can happen to the celebrated incomer. The abuse of power and the consequences of the abuse of power, whether that's male power or political power. Creon is a study in tyranny. He's human, he's very human, he loves his daughter, he's funny, he's quite charming, and he's vicious. And he's pragmatic as well. He's honest. I'm afraid of you. I'm banishing you. And I'll kill you if you don't do what I'm telling you to do. And I say these things because I can, because I'm powerful. And I will not put up with being afraid of anyone. I spent a lot of effort in the rehearsals creating a seamless line of tension and pressure so that there was sort of no escape hole for the audience or the characters on the journey to destruction. So in a way, I kind of worked against the idea of key points. But I guess there are key points that we tried to crystallize. One key point was very near the beginning, King Creon's decision, first of all, to banish Medea and then to threaten her with death if she didn't leave after a day, her and her children. That's a key closing of the space for Medea to give her fewer options. Another key point might be of Liz's creation, where she created a completely new scene where Medea confronts the new bride-to-be of the next bride of Jason, the Princess Glauce, who is off stage in the original. And I think a flashpoint that Liz created was Glauce claiming at least, and I believe it, that she was pregnant with Jason's child. That is a moment, that's an emotional flashpoint for Medea. And certainly in the text, she says that Glauce had condemned herself out of her own mouth. But in fact, Medea had been planning to destroy her, perhaps before that even. Then there's a sort of very much a theatrical one when she's sending the kids off with these poisoned presents. It's a very poignant moment, sending the kids down the long runway set to take the poisoned veil and the poisoned crown to the wedding feast for Glauce that will kill her horribly. And Jason, in an almost Hitchcocky moment, goes, "Stop, children," as they're going off to the wedding. And goes, this is too generous, you don't need to do this. And she manages to persuade him, no, please, I really want it, and to make peace. And he caves in. For us, we know that those presents are poisoned. So for us, that's a key. That's an if only moment. If only they hadn't gone. So much of the pressures on the story, on the play, on the journey of Medea, so much is set going before the play. Which doesn't mean it feels like a predictable boat race. You still feel, no, don't do it. But there is that horrible momentum of a boulder rolling down a hill. So I suppose the key points of potential change in it are those moments where the boulder you think might be diverted that way or that way.